Welcome, 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 and hello. I just need a camera. Why is that camera not working? That is because I am stupid and did not start all the tools I need to start. Maybe that will work better. There we go. Okay, so let's try this again. Hey, am I okay? So, should also try it. Some light so we can actually see a little bit. It's better. Yeah, no, then I'm gonna blind it. So that'll have to do. So let's try that again. Hello and welcome. We're gonna be painting some more robots today. Started them a few days ago, and hopefully I'll be painting now on every Wednesday and sometimes Mondays if I have the time for it. Not a lot much to say other than we need to put some actual color on all of these. You see, I think they, with exception for the sort of, I was just about to say with the section for the robots, the contraption on the spinning video, Emily, that is from Malifaux. It is the faction I was playing, the crew I was playing. They have their old grandma, Abuela. I think Abuela means grandma in Spanish or something like that. She's basically driving around in a steam-powered wheelchair, wielding a sawn-off shotgun, double-barrel shotgun. And the small things hanging down from her large hat are actually skulls, or sort of shrink heads or something like that. So that's her. That is one of the most fun miniatures I've ever painted, but also one of the most frustrating ones because she came in so many different pieces. Abuela herself were in 3 different pieces: her legs, her torso, her head, then the hat, and the hat also had the skulls as separate pieces, and then everything that you can imagine is in pieces on the on the wheelchair itself are in pieces. It was just, oh, that was a lot. Oh my god, it's Tom Posh. Welcome, Tomothy. So, but as I was saying, the exception of what I was about to say, the robots, but they're all robots. Apart from the really nasty machine-like things here, they all seem to have capes. I know there's a sniper here who also has them, but all of these have capes. So I need to do something about that. They're just gonna coat it in something bright, not sort of an off-white, give it a good base for. What should we call it? For giving it some proper color. And then someone in one of the one-page rules forums said that they'd seen way too many green and blue robot schemes. And I can see what they mean by that. So we're gonna try to avoid. I'm a little tired today. We're gonna try to avoid greens and blues. We're probably gonna go for reds. Maybe yellows, purple, stuff like that. I bought some new Army Painter speed paints because I wanted to see maybe for the capes or something like that where you don't draw the speed paints next to each other. I think they're gonna be really good. And yes, no capes. And Tom says that he assumes they're not Transformers because if they were, their disguises would be kinda crap. Or maybe their disguises are actually really brilliant because you just guessed that they were not Transformers, but then when you find out that they are, you're going to be really, really surprised. Anyway, on with the painting. On with knocking over the miniatures. So I'm going to do what I did the last time as well and start with all the plain regular troopers just to get them out of the way. Then I figure I'm kind of just gonna come back later. When I actually get started painting on these, because some of the guys have special weapons, and I want to do different colored capes for those so they're kind of easier to see on the battlefield. Ooh, you're painting minis as well, Tom. That is awesome. Do share pictures. and you're painting Legolas from Journeys in Middle-earth. I played a couple of missions in that game, and I really liked it, but then the group I was playing in, we kind of sort of just... We didn't have time. We had way too many gaming groups going on back then. So yeah, so what color scheme are you going for with Legolas? Please turn down the exposure. I'm not sure if that was any better, but... I actually spoke to one of my friends today about me starting up with the painting streams, and she actually said that she thought it would be fun if she joined me one day on stream. She's never painted miniatures, but she wanted to try it at some point, and she figured why not have it, you know, on a stream, because then she would have the video for later, so she could see all the mistakes she's doing, and I think that would be absolutely fun. So that may be coming up. I have no idea when. We're both fairly busy people, so it's going to be tricky, you know, getting our schedules to align. But hey, I think it's a fun idea, and it's super brave for someone to actually paint for the very first time on camera. And Tom's Legolas color scheme is going to be greens and browns, basically on the assumption he's very good at not being seen in woods. Now, if he was really, really good at not being seen in woods, he wouldn't need to be wearing greens and browns. He'd be wearing bright orange and stuff like that. I mean, I think that's kind of the way you really sort of test how good you are at sneaking around. Do it in bright colors. So yeah, what are you up to otherwise, Tom? Enjoying life? Thanks for the look, Emily. I hope work isn't too bad. By not too bad, I mean I hope it's not super repetitive, because I know you don't like that. Okay, now since these are basically just gonna be tabletop ready, I'm not really gonna be painting the deepest recesses of the cloak. I mean, it's gonna be almost impossible getting all the way in there, but I do want to get a little bit of paint in. Just enough that I can actually get some color in, so that it's also, you know, the cape is also visible from the front. Don't want to make it fully black on the inside, though I guess the inside of the cape could have been different color than the outside, as if there's a Emily, you know this. Is that called a lining? Like if you have on a coat or a cape or something on the inside of a different material, different color. Kestrel, hello. Glad to see you. I caught you on stream a few days ago. It was quite nice, really nice to see you painting the Wonderland miniatures. Emily has to make some TV screen images for some Temper campaign halfway through the month. Yay, that's cool. So Kestrel, what are you up to today? Oh, no painting for Kestrel. Busy, busy, busy around the house. I mean, that's... You gotta do that once in a while. So, yeah. That's fine. You'll be painting some other day, I'm sure. Did you get further with the one Alice in Wonderland minis? Actually, I have to say that I'm super impressed. I know I've mentioned this before, but I just keep getting more impressed by the one-page rules miniatures. I mean, I got their Robot Legions bundles off of my mini factory, and the regular troopers, as far as I can tell, there's actually 5 different poses to choose from, which I think is super neat. In that way, yeah, they have the same gun, they have kind of the same layout. It's basically just the regular sort of grunts, troops, whatever. But just having different poses for them and different ways the capes flow around the shoulders, stuff like that. I think that's super great, especially for the troopers, the sort of rank and file troops you can expect to have the most of. Because that way it's not just going to be the same miniature repeated over and over. And I know in a lot of the boxes for Warhammer and the 140k lines, you have different arms and weapons and stuff like that, so you can modify the poses a bit. But these ones, since I didn't want to assemble the minis myself, I just used the ones they supplied as combined. They actually have STL files for the individual arms and legs and torso, stuff like that. But they also have the combined ones. So they have 5 different combined robot warriors here that you can just print. And that way, I mean, I'm going to be using it for skirmish games, so I don't think I'll be needing more than 5 of these troopers ever. But even if I did, it would not be that clear that some of them had the same pose, because they'd be standing at different angles, rotations, different places in the battlefield, so it's not like they're right next to each other. I just think that gives my more sort of vibrant look and feel to sort of the final army when it's on the table. So Oh, hey Ori. Thanks for the lurk. Hope you're not too busy doing boring stuff, but busy doing awesome stuff instead. So, what else is new? I went out playing disc golf tonight before streaming. That's why I'm streaming an hour later than you normally. I ran into someone I've played with before at this particular course, one of the local courses, and he and his friend started playing over the summer. So running into him was kind of fun again, just saying hi and seeing how it's going and talking about the new discs he had bought and all that. It's really cool. It's always great to see new people start playing, but it's in a way just as great to see new people returning for playing more. And for those that don't know it, disc golf is sometimes also referred to as frisbee golf. It basically takes a special build frisbee or disc. Frisbee used to be a trademark of some company. So it's basically a plastic disc. You just throw it. Just like in golf, you go to where it lands, pick it up, and from there you throw, and then instead of getting it down a small hole, we have these baskets with some chains attached to them that kind of shoot into the chain system, whatever, and then they hopefully catch the disc and just let it drop into the basket itself. I have a ton of fun being out playing that, and did a couple of really good rounds today. It's just a small course with 9 holes normally, but due to, I think they're replanting the grass around one of the baskets, only 8 of the holes are playable today. So going 6 under par means I got 6 birdies out of 8 possible ones. I think that's a pretty good result. So yeah. And Emily thought I said nudist when I said new disc. But hey, I mean, nudist disc golf, that could be a thing. Ooh, and yeah, careful of sunburns. I mean, you actually have to be careful of sunburns playing regular disc golf as well. I had one day this summer where I forgot to wear sunscreen and I didn't put on a hat. My top. I mean, I'm thin-haired, so that was just red when I was done. So, by the way, Emily, I know you're not really playing computer games as much as the others, but I got the Deep Rock Galactic minis printed yesterday, and oh yeah, I posted pictures of them obviously, but they're here. They're cool, and I so look forward to painting them. Even though, I mean, they're pretty large compared to what I'm usually, what I'm usually painting. But that's actually fun because it's fun to paint large minis. You use some of the same techniques, but it's still very different because you can more sort of you play with the areas that need to be painted. And you'll excuse me for a few seconds. There's a cat that needs a little bit of help with the litter box. I'll be right back. Okay, I am no longer slowly asphyxiating from uncovered kitty poop. That was a potent one. Yeah, I don't know why she did it. They're usually really, really good at doing things properly. She just hadn't covered anything, and the litter basket is literally like 2-3 meters behind me, so it got yeah. Suffice it to say that you should be happy you only have voice and video. So yeah. Okay, so this part here is also known as the boring part, where I'm just turning the capes into a brighter color, simply so I can slap some either contrast paint or army paint or speed paint on it. Not really sure which one I'll use yet, and just go for whatever. Everybody says that, oh, you miss having a kitty. Yeah, and sometimes you really don't. Yep, this is the part I could be without. But then again, compared to having two fur balls curling up to me on the couch when I'm watching TV, or when I read in bed at night, or whatever, whenever I'm kind of settling down doing anything, they're usually just there. I mean, that's a little unpleasant odor is nothing compared to how wonderful everything else about having cats is. Yeah, these two are really, really snuggle kitties. They've really come a long way from when I got them almost a year and a half ago. It's insane, time just flies by. But yeah. So, I'm thinking of something to talk about here, and I mean, I think that's a problem with streaming, Monday and then already again today, Wednesday. Not a lot has happened since then, and well, that might actually be a topic in itself, because yesterday was my real life D&D group who were playing, and saying that not a lot happened, and then in a time span that includes a role-playing session is usually not a very good sign. And in this case, it's sadly true, because we're kind of at a low, or a sort of low intensity part of the campaign, or whatever, where we just, one of the people in the party got a small keep up in the mountains somewhere, and we're trying to settle in, and we'd hoped to be doing some downtime activities between sessions, but it turned out when we started yesterday that all of that downtown, getting things up and running, sorting out supplies, all those kind of things, dealing with some of the locals that needed dealing with, just making everything stable. Apparently that was not going to happen in between game sessions, so we spent about 4 hours yesterday just honestly just doing boring stuff, talking with people that basically just gave us a little bit of information but didn't really do much sort of on the role-playing side. So yeah, that's that. At least we're playing. I guess that's something to be happy with. Oh, you spent one of those look-through books. Yeah, I mean, that sometimes happens, but I mean, I think it's the last 4 game sessions where we've just been doing traveling when not much happened. One of the others introduced a new character she switched to, and this character I introduced a new character, which is, I mean, that part does give some role-playing opportunities, but still, when basically most of the past 4 game sessions have been kind of nothing really, then it gets a little sort of, I don't know if repetitive is the right word for it, but it's kind of boring, kind of let's get on with it. We're getting a little restless, so yeah, lots of info was discussed. Oh, Shaft actually shared. I don't want to know what Shaft shared, because I am not sure. I think I might be banned from Twitch if you mention that. And to those who don't know, Shaft is a character in the D&D podcast, Incorrigible Party, which is highly recommendable. They have a lot of really good stories, great characters, and they actually edit it so you don't get everything from their game sessions. You get all the interesting bits from the game sessions, which I personally really liked. And Tom is back and saying that he is. Oh, you enjoy having friends with Cat. I mean, that is actually really good. I kind of have a feeling we may be in for a small break in a little bit, because someone is going at the litter box. We'll see. So if you can hear scratchy noises in the background, that is Athene being a cat. Yeah, having friends with animals is also really good, as Emily says. Then you can go visit, and Tom says as well, you go visit and have all the fun of the animals, but not the they're taken care of and all that. But you rarely get the same bond with the animals when they're not fully yours. And just then again, just having them every single day to me is absolutely priceless. Oh yeah, grandbabies. Oh yeah, Tom, your Lord of the Rings role-playing games. You had some plans for that. That's a while ago, right? If you ever do find time and energy for it, I am still very much up for it. Partly because I'd like to try the system, and also to play in that world, but mostly because I want to play with you guys again. That is always fun. Yeah, earlier this year, but I'm sure we'll get around to it. Do you have any idea how many players you'd ideally want to have, Tom? Okay, Tom, thanks for stopping by. I hope you have a great evening, and whatever you're doing, have fun doing it. So... yeah, now the cat's tearing up my living room. Yeah, I've sometimes been wondering if there would be, there probably are people who's doing it since it's the modern age and everyone's doing it. Everything that you can think of, someone's already done it. But doing like an old kind of sort of radio styled, like in the old days before TVs, you would have sports commentary on the radio. They would describe what goes on in the game, whatever game is being played. I kind of think it would be fun to try and do that again for various things. Maybe stuff like cats tearing up my living room and just going through all of that and talking about, oh, and now we see Athena's going really hard at the scratching pose. That's a really good attempt. She's doing fine, but oh, here comes Artemis. She is playing with a small hairband. It's a black hairband. Oh, now it's got under the couch. Can she catch it again? Can she catch it? Can she dig it out? She could, and she's, stuff like that. And just, I don't think I would be good at it because it would require me to be agitated for far longer than what I'm comfortable with. But hey, if someone could, get into that kind of speech. Yeah, Cacapades. There you go. Or basically any other thing like that, and just, I think it would take a really certain kind of person to be able to fully describe everything that happens in the physical world only with voice. I know that's what a lot of people doing in role-playing games, I know that. But that also builds in large parts the imagination of the listener, the player, whatever. Whereas in a sports game or cats tearing up a living room, that's serious business. You can't just leave that to your imagination. You need all the details. So yeah, I don't know. That's just a straight thought. Or maybe a thought about strays. Unintended. In other news, I may actually, just maybe I've actually gotten out of my writer's block. It's not like I'm normally writing lots of stuff, but I usually do write just whatever once in a while. But over the summer, probably because the weather's been so nice, I found it really hard to actually just sit down and get started on anything. And I have a world building project that I'd really like to dig further into. And it's not because I kind of want to make anything that gets published. I don't have any ambitions in that direction. I'm just mainly just writing it for myself and to be able to give something to players about whatever world I want them to play in when we get around to it next time. And I just figured doing sort of small short stories not small short stories, but short descriptions of the different races, the different areas, and the geography of the place, politics, ruling classes, all those things. It's kind of a cute little world I designed some years ago for Brit, that I know some of you know, and one of her friends when they wanted to learn how to play D&D. After listening to a certain podcast, I might add, and I just thought it would be fun to make, especially since with new characters, I didn't just want to dump them into a huge game world, and I didn't want to either spend the first many sessions describing the world of it could be Forgotten Realms or Greyhawk or whatever. I didn't want them to have to read up on all that stuff, and I know no matter what world they're in, there's going to be some description and explanations, but doing something that was smaller seemed like a fun thing. So I got the idea of making sort of a small, highly magical valley where distances are weird, because the entire valley is only like 500 kilometers wide, and there's a reason for that. There's also a reason why all traveling in that world just takes a long time. This sort of magic twists the distances. So when you're going by boat, there's a huge lake. The Danish word for lake is sø, which is closer to sea than lake. So, but a huge lake in the middle. Sailing on that is pretty fast. Oh look, I messed up the poor little guy's head. The robot, that is, not the lake, not lake related at all. It's fine. Yeah, it can be fixed. But still no. But if you travel through the forests or by land, time just gets sort of warped and twisted, and things just take longer. Because I figured that would be a fun way of doing it. So not like 10 times as long, but just it's difficult going through the forest. It's very dangerous. You have to stick to the roads, so you actually have to go slightly longer than you really want to. You can't do the straight line and so on. And another thing is also that there are no flying creatures of any kind, which I figured would be appropriately weird, but there are explanations for that. And if anyone eventually actually plays through the campaign I'll be using the world for, you might actually get some of those questions answered. Or if you think it sounds really, really super fun and you maybe want to DM in that world, once I actually get it described and explained a little bit longer, drop me a message and I'll definitely give you all the dirty details and secrets of the world of Coravia. So yeah, I mean it's an idea. It's just something I wanted to try out, and that's the beauty of role-playing games, is you can just do that. You can try it out. Alternately, if I never find players for it, maybe I'm just gonna write some either short stories or maybe a short book or two if I can get my ass in gear for NaNoWriMo. NaNoWriMo, by the way, another fun project that's coming up in November. It's in November every year. The context or concept is basically write a book in a month, and the book here is defined as 50,000 words for various reasons. That makes sense. So write 50,000 words in a month. I don't know if you think it sounds easily doable, if you think it sounds like a horrible lot of writing or whatever. I guess that depends on where you are writing wise and what style you use. But basically the concept is about doing raw material. It's not editing. 50,000 words in a month. It's actually writing the raw material, because without the raw material, you're never going to get to the editing part. So just get writing. Kind of like if you're going to learn how to write miniatures, or not write, paint miniatures or anything. You just need to start painting. I mean, you can't sit around planning forever. Anyway, I might do that, or maybe I'll just use NaNoWriMo to actually get myself motivated to writing the world building part, you know, the descriptions of the world. Maybe that's something I should do. What else to talk about? Oh yeah, the new character I introduced yesterday in my real life D&D group. I needed to play something that was a little more lighthearted, and sort of more up for whatever is in front of us kind of thing. So instead of, I had my Vengeance Paladin before, who really did not like demons and devils and fiends, those kind of things. And that in itself didn't really become a problem. Hey, Bill! Oh, well, if you like my handsome face, and look at the handsome face that's down on the spinning display. Let's pull that up so you can see it, Bill. That is an epic dwarf. That is indeed true. I mean, to some degree, all dwarves are epic because dwarves. No, but that brings me back to my new character, who is a dwarven forge cleric. I may have been slightly influenced by the choices of some of the players in Diamond Head campaign, who showed me just how annoying cleric can be with spirit guardians and all those other things. And that's kind of also why it was a little annoying, yeah, I guess it was. I do believe that is the, I don't know who's who, isn't that I think that's the scout, actually, one we have there. Jeez, this is actually getting too heavy for the the display, the rotating display to fully just pull. It's sounding really, really strained. Yes, any GRG dwarf, Deep Rock Galactic dwarf is a good dwarf in everyone's books. And if it's not, then they're not. Then it's not a good book. Slightly overexposed. I'm using the lamp that I'm sort of lighting these with. I'm also using that to drive the small rotating display. So it's kind of a balance between too much light and so little light that it can't rotate. But yes, Bill, definitely playing some DRG soon. Summer is over and the weather's getting colder, more windy, so time to stay in and play those games. Maybe even try some of all the free games that keep showing up on, especially Epic Games that has what, like one free game per week or something like that. And us being silly, we naturally run and get all the games we can for free and then never ever play them. I have no idea what they get out of it. I mean, yeah, sure, it means that some people will play games they wouldn't otherwise play. But what does Epic get out of it? Just exposure, people starting up the launcher once in a while is good for them. I mean, there's no advertising in it, I guess. I don't know. Oh yeah, of course. If they get more people onto Epic, then I guess then they increase their numbers, and that will look good to their shareholders or whatever. So yeah. But yeah, hopefully lots and lots of gameplays during the winter. And if you're ever up, and if I mean, the time zone is usually the biggest problem to us playing together, Bill. But I'd love to again. It's always fun playing with you guys. And again, I've come to realize that I'm getting so old and rusty that the PvP games are way too rough for me. I just can't compete with the people playing stuff like Tarkov or Modern Warfare, those kind of games. I just get wasted by everyone else essentially, so that's not fun for me. Give a few people some easy kills, but it's not really not much point to doing that. But no, the co-op games, that's far more my style these days. It's more fun, it's more relaxed, you can take a little bit of breather once in a while, so yeah. Yeah, Bill says he needs to be really well rested and very lucky to keep up in PvP games. Yeah, and I really, when I started hearing about how good they were, I hate calling it Battle Royale because I watched the original Battle Royale movies and they give me the creeps and were really well made movies, but absolutely terrifying and horrible in their concepts. So I have an issue with the term, but I mean that game style, it was public PUBG. Player Unknown Battleground, I think it was called. One of the first one I tried, and it really got my adrenaline up. That was so awesome. It's almost, the same levels as when I was playing Eve, where you lose your spaceship if you die. And yes, old people unite. Eventually, when we get there, if we can actually find it. Have you seen my glasses? I've lost them somewhere. I can't read the signs. So, no, but PUBG, really, really loved the concept. Played it a few times. It really got sort of super excited about it, and then realized that when it actually came to the firefights, even when I was outgunning the other ones, equipment-wise, I just did not have, I call it the twitch factor, sort of the hand-eye coordination and speed to actually hit anything. Way different from when I was playing as a kid, and as a young, not even a kid, as a young man even, playing games like Doom 1 and 2, way back in the day, and Quake when that came out. Oh, that's where they are. Cool. Now I just need to remember where my forehead is. I can't see it anywhere. Probably because I don't have my glasses on. No, but basically the old games were very different style. They were more, not cartoonish in the graphics, but it was sort of more insane in the way you moved around. You're just bouncing all over the place, jumping way too high, so sort of really unrealistic in their movements, controls, and how fast you ran. You were always running. The newer games, you're more sort of like shuffling along, which is awesome. I love that level of realism in the games. But compared to the old times when you could literally circle strafe people, just keep your crosshair on them and you would hit what the cross is painted on, or targeting, because there wasn't any sort of shaking from movement shaking, or whatever it's called. You weren't bouncing up and down. Your viewpoint was completely steady. That was just a way different way of learning how to be competitive in those games. And I know it can be learned. I spent a lot of time in aim labs, or I can't remember what the other one I started out in is called, but basically small mini games that have levels for teaching you, or where you can train your aiming and fiddle around with your mouse settings. And they even have they try to copy the movement patterns, and sort of gun shaking and everything from a lot of the large full-scale games. So like Modern Warfare, you can just set up so you have the same kind of jitter, or whatever it's called, as those games. You have the same recoil on the guns that they use. You can switch to the different guns, stuff like that. And that's really, really cool to have aim trainers like that. And I got way better at hitting stuff, which is super awesome, and stuff like Deep Rock Galactic as well, because hey, anytime you get better at aiming and actually hitting what you want to hit, that's an improvement no matter what game it's in. But yeah, as you just said, Bill, aim and reaction time probably never gonna be good enough to compete with most of the PvPers. So yeah, being tactical. Bill is being tactical. I'm not. I'm more sort of just rushing into things. That's because that's how I played in the old days. You weren't really sneaking around, because that's not what the games were about. The games were about going in full blast and firing away. Yeah, it's just a lot of that changed when I think the Team Fortress mod for Quake came out way back in the day. I think that was one of the first ones that started doing the different classes and stuff like that. And then some years later we had Counter-Strike coming out, and then those games really started changing. I remember playing Day of Defeat, which was for Counter-Strike, which was basically a World War II themed first-person shooter. That had a lot of capture the flag and control point stuff, where you just move back and forward, trying to attack in waves and all that. And it's really super cool that the games became about more than just killing off your enemy, but that also means they got more complicated to play because you have to take into account more factors. You have to know the levels a lot better. But that's, I mean, it's super cool. It's just a little bit too much for what I have time for. Bill says that he also learned to laugh it off when he dies. That is always a good skill to have. And I think that's a skill that a lot of people should learn from either these games or whatever. So in the real world, where something happens to them that they're not happy with, it can be road rage kind of people. You're stuck in traffic. Why do you get mad? I mean, no one wants to intentionally make everyone else come home to their families later. So it's just how it is. I mean, there's no point getting angry about it. So just laughing it off when those kind of annoyances happen. I think that's a life skill that more people should learn. So that was the wise words of today. Be more like Bill. It's kind of mesmerizing painting these minis because I can see all the print layers in the coats. I mean, it's not clear, it's not visible on camera, I think, but through the magnifying glass, I can literally see sort of the ridges, like on a like height lines on a map, just going down through the entire cloak. I'm just wondering if this is ever gonna look nice on, on the battlefield. But again, once they're on the table and playing, and it's gonna be fine. It's kind of sad that it takes me more time to just basically base coat the capes of 5 minutes. It's gonna take me about as long as it took to dry brush 15 minutes Monday evening. But I mean, this is about getting the paint to cover properly, giving them multiple layers. So I mean, it makes sense that it takes longer. It's just, I don't know. I've always been, I don't know, jealous is not what I'm looking for. It's been amazed and impressed was the word we're going for. I'm impressed by people who can paint within the lines as it is in miniature painting. They can paint precisely super fast and just pull their brush down over something and covers. Everything should cover and nothing else. That is a really both useful skill to have, but also an impressive skill at that level of hand-eye coordination. It may have something to do with me not being good at playing computer games anymore, or hand-eye coordination and stuff like that. I'm also using a magnifying glass simply because it makes it so that I can actually see where the, especially the thinner brushes, finer brushes, actually hit the miniature. I usually can't if I'm just looking at it with you know, my eyes without the magnifying glass. So that's a sign, definitely a sign that I'm getting old. And it's not that I need reading glasses, because that's never been an issue. It's, well, maybe this is the beginning of that as an issue. But it's just for, you know, actually seeing where the tip of the brush hits the mini and when it hits the mini. It's always been difficult for me, which may explain why it took me a long time to actually be good at doing shading with, you know, layering, highlighting. So, yeah. But I mean, basically I don't really care how long it takes to paint the minis, as long as I keep working on them, they'll get there eventually. This one here actually really reminds me of why I'm glad I don't have any large armies and not only doing skirmish games. Because imagine having to do this on not 5 troopers, but 20, 40 troopers. I'm also thinking that maybe I should actually have painted the majority of this cloak with the airbrush. I just have to do the edges and stuff like that, or I could even have done it before, not before a dry brush. The dry brush always kind of sort of spills over into other areas. But that might be something to remember for next project. But also, if I did them with the airbrush, I can't really do it on stream because the compressor for the airbrush is too loud, I think, for the stream. Can't remember if I tried it, but I also need the spray booth on the desk and everything. So yeah, probably not a good idea with airbrushing on stream. Could be fun though. Then you could really see me make mistakes. So now, as always, it would be a good idea to make a shout out to the composer who made the music we're listening to. As usual, this is Adrian von Ziegler, who is a Swiss composer who does a lot of really cool instrumental music like what you're hearing. Check him out on YouTube, Adrian von Ziegler, or on it wasn't SoundCloud or something else. Bandcamp, I think it's also at. You can buy his music there and you can use it in videos or free projects, non-commercial stuff, or streaming. So give him a shout out, go listen to it. I really enjoy it as background music. It's really wonderful. He's good at sticking to the same style within albums. There will be variations, of course, but if you wanted to hear some, what we're listening to is this Celtic Collection albums, and they're, within that genre, they're the same style. So if you want that, if you want something slightly darker, he has a couple of other albums for that. Like I think Odyssey is a good one. I use that sometimes. It's cool. Use it for background when you're playing role-playing games or just reading, whatever you like to do that can have some good instrumental mood-setting music. For those who were here just when I started, that was actually a different number. That is a small song that, tune, whatever, track, that a friend of mine did for me for these streams. I also started using it for background when I'm doing the presentation videos of the minis. I've only done one so far, I think, with that music. That is the introduction music when that played was the track Secret Muse by Chilean, or Anders as his name is. Anders, for those of you who can't pronounce Scandinavian names properly. It's from Sweden. And he's a super cool guy. Used to do electronic music, still doing it, obviously. And have had a few smash hits back in the day. So it's always fun to hear people talk about all the stuff they did back then and having had hits that are so successful that they're still being played today. I think it's probably a remix of it, but that was cool. I think my painting ambition for today is to get the coats finished, which means the last dude here painted, and then doing, I don't know if I should do speed paints or if I should do contrasts. I'm thinking maybe the regular troopers should just be, I hate just doing in a bland color, like sort of deep brown or whatever. But at the same time, they're just the plain troopers. They're not the ones I really want to stand out on the board. So I am gonna have to take a decision on that pretty soon. Maybe just do them purple. Inside of the coat. but I'm also trying to remind myself that these models, again, they're part of a regiment, tabletop ready standard. It's not characters for role-playing games that just need to be done and look good on the table. So I think that is the key to getting through game projects, is to be realistic about what it should be. I mean, if you're painting for a competition, I mean, go nuts, spend as much time as you need to on it. But for anything else, just do it so you're happy and so the minis work for the intended purpose. And especially if I saw a trick from, I think it's called Luke. I think he changed his name of the channel to Wargaming Scenics or something like that. I can't remember. But he was doing some small game, I think 10mm scale minis for a game, and he had them on bases and in regiments. So what he did was that he just painted I think he just dry brushed everything first, and then he painted details on the front line in each regiment, because as I said, at 10mm scale, you're never gonna see the miniatures in the middle of this brew, or this sort of tray or regiment. So assume you have 4 rows of 8 soldiers. I mean, the outer layer, you can paint those. It's going to be 20 minutes, but the inner 12 doesn't matter. No one's ever going to get anywhere near those. So just do the very bare necessities for those and move on to something else. No point painting something you know it's going to be covered by other minis when you're playing. Again, unless it's for a competition or whatever, then by all means go nuts. But for this, yeah. I think that's good enough that I can get away with it. So colors. How about I think it's time to get my testing mini out and try on some colors to see how they actually look. My testing mini, for those who don't remember, is this somewhat colorful orc who's been reprimed a couple of times. What's on him here are some of the speed paints from Army Painter, which I really liked, but also really didn't like. So that was a weird experience. But hey, let's see, because we have... Nah, it's not going to be the reddish one. I'm just going to check that this one is actually the right... just want to make sure that it's the color I remember. Yeah, it's a rainbow orc. Well, not exactly rainbow orc, it's just the... what's the story? Wasn't it Joseph's multicolored cloak or something like that? One of the old Bible stories or something? But yeah, very colorful orc. And he's even kind of overexposed here. So what do we paint? We paint a boot. I mean, slapping on this here, I think that's gonna be a good finish. And then remembering that it's a sort of a broken white. The orc here is a fully white primed miniature. So the other one is gonna have a little bit more tone to it. I was considering just washing it instead of using contrasts or speed paints, but I think we need more color than what you get from a wash. And I know that these kind of effects in his left boot here, I really need to sort out my camera. Simply because this is actually annoying me now. Why? Nope. Why is this being stupid? Go. There we go. Maybe. That did it. That is way better representation of the colors on him. But if you look at his left boot, that kind of effect on the capes, I think that's gonna look great. So let's say thank you to the orc. We need to name the orc at some point. Also not gonna use my Winsor Newton brushes for this. We're gonna go switch to a synthetic. Did I forget to clean this one? It actually has a blue shine to it, which I don't particularly like. It's also bent in the tip. That's fine. That's fine. We'll make do. Oh yeah, Clash with a K as a name for an orc, says Emily, because his colors will clash. I don't know what you mean. I mean, his color scheme is perfectly balanced and aligned, and anyone who says differently will have to take it up with him and his very heavy looking weapons. But yeah, no, that's actually a good idea. He's gonna probably clash. And there's so many puns and jokes you can do on that. Is he the Clash or just a Clash? Yeah, this is gonna work well. I mean, you can really see how the contrast just flows into the recesses. It just adds that instant shade. So much better. I actually saw something called the slap chop technique that I haven't tried yet. At least not sort of structured way, where you basically just prime your model black and then you dry brush all the areas, and then you kind of have just dry brush it in white, so you have like a black model with all the highlights in pure white, and then you just paint with contrast over it, so you get some really dark recesses and very bright highlights. I'm gonna try that if I ever draw paint, print, whatever, another round, because the robots, there's so much metal on them that it makes sense to just go in with the metallic dry brush to begin with. Just to soak up a bit of this, and hopefully hopefully this will just work. I keep forgetting the inside of the cloak, and then turn the miniature over and it's, well, not white, but sort of off-white, skeleton bone colored. That's just me being silly. Oh, and Emily, I feel like I should apologize to you guys because I am way behind on the podcast. I think I'm still stuck down the 150s or something. I saw your post on the Annalise something after party and kind of went, oh yeah, I should get around to listening to that as well, and should get around to catching up and, you know, all those things. Yeah, but no, but I want to hear what goes on with you guys. So I mean, I think that did the trick. Sort of a light brown, slightly dirty color. Yeah, winter's coming, but I'm gonna be playing games with Bill in winter, and I'm gonna be writing, and I'm gonna probably / hopefully be working again by then, and you know, all those other silly excuses, and you know, completely silly thing to waste your time on. You know, really working. Who needs that? Yeah, it's always something. We have a saying, I don't know if you have it in English as well, but in Danish we have a saying that translates to something like, the road to hell is covered in bad excuses. Meaning that when you know, keep coming up with all the bad excuses all the time, that's kind of sending you to the wrong place. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. Yeah, I mean, we have the bad excuses. I'm not really sure where or how, or you know, the etymology of it. But yeah, I kind of like it a bit because good intentions, I get what that is, but that kind of also saying that you shouldn't have good intentions because that's gonna go wrong. And I know it kind of hints at you should not only have good intentions, you should also, you know, carry out what you're doing. But if you're doing something with good intentions, is it really, then I mean, you should do that. I mean, you should always have good intentions, so it's not inherently a bad thing. At least I don't think it is. Yeah, exactly. Deterrent, exactly. And it's kind of like this is something you should avoid. So you should avoid having good intentions. That does not sit right with me. So this just proves once again that Danish is the superior language of the world. Which is good, because once we actually take over the world again, then every one of you will have to learn it. Usually, I would advise against sort of touching up contrast paints like I'm doing here before they're fully dried out, because you're gonna leave small splotches and sort of half filled in areas. But on these cloaks that already have holes in them, that is actually a pretty neat effect. Hey, Dave! Yeah, you're absolutely right, Dave. They barely speak English. Cool. How are things down on? Well, I'm not gonna say down under. Sorry. How are things down there in New Zealand? They drifted off screen. Oh. Emily, you know what they say. Resistance is futile. You will be resembled. So you're getting ready for work. That's cool. Also, cheers, wherever you are. Make sure you drink water. Remember to hydrate. Stuff like that. I mean, I know it's not as warm as it used to be, but it doesn't hurt getting a little fluid imports. I think once I'm actually done with the capes, I will obviously need the bases, but I think on these dudes here, maybe a little bit of an effect on the weapons might be a good idea. But other than that, I think I'm almost done. Yeah, so oh yeah, you got spring coming up for you down there. I hope your spring and summer is as wonderful as the one we've had here in Denmark, because it's been super amazing. It, I mean, I think, yeah, we had, here and there we had a little bit of rain, but all things considered, one of the reasons I haven't been streaming or doing much indoor for the past 6 months is that the weather has basically been super nice from March, and it still is. Once in a while, I think in May we had like a week or so where the weather was sort of consistently not good. But other than that, it's just been going from somewhere between really pleasant and, by our standards, sweltering hot, which is, you're gonna laugh at me for saying that, but for Danish people, it's been warm. Also, remember, we don't have air condition in most places, so there is that. I mean, 35 degrees. I think we hit about 35 degrees at some point without air condition anywhere. That's warm. We had a bit of a warm winter. How was our winter? To be honest, I can't really remember. I was way too busy being stressed and angsty about work. So that kind of ruined that, but I think it was pretty mild. I don't remember long periods of snow. I mean, once in a while, we'll actually get a few weeks of snow once in a while. Sometimes it even stays there the entire time. I don't remember much of that, so we probably didn't have. Go. And I mean, we've got 25 minutes until my plans stop. I'm trying to stick to 2 hours of painting. Why we don't have ACs? Well, yeah, basically because we don't really need them. I mean, some newer office buildings are going to have them because it is easier to control the indoor climate with them. But most houses have heaters, but not any kind of cooling system. I know some people have it anyway, and some people install it. Some people get sort of mobile units that you can lug around and maybe not cool down your room you're working in, but at least they can blow cold air at you. I mean, that way you get both the heat and you're getting cold from the draft. But yeah, but usually we don't really need them because it wasn't until quite recently that we started getting these temperatures over 30 degrees sort of consistently throughout summer. So that's just never been part of our, I don't know the word for that, and I'm tired, so I'm not gonna try. But yeah, it's not been part of us. Also, probably, I think a lot of it comes from us having a coastal climate. So it takes quite a while for the temperature to go up, and we rarely have sort of very large changes. No, we don't have really fast changes. It's not like some of my friends who live in the middle part of Germany, where once the sun comes out and start heating up, everything gets hot immediately. Here we're kind of cooled down by all the water around Denmark, so it takes longer for us to hit the high temperatures. But on the other hand, they also linger for far longer, giving us some really pleasant August and Septembers usually. I mean, this week we're down to about 15 degrees, but I mean, all through August we had super nice weather and warm weather by our standards. So yeah, high 90s. That's more than we have, and I mean we have I think around mid 90s in Fahrenheit, 32-ish degrees, low 30 degrees centigrade. Someone with Google or something similar like that, please go ahead and convert it if you'd like. We usually have that for like maybe a few weeks every summer, so it's not that it's that bad. And once that period is over, coming down from the high temperatures, it's a lot better than moving up into them, because then you go down into the sort of more cool. It's cool if it's cooler than it was the day before, then it's a lot easier to tolerate. So 90 is about 30°C, yeah. So getting up into the 90s, that usually only happens for a few weeks in summer for us, and then we stay in the, I think about mid-80s or so. The hundreds, that's like 40 degrees, almost 40 degrees. That's insane. Yeah, I mean, the southern part of Europe, these years they're just getting hit worse and worse, it seems. And they got regular heat waves. They have, I mean, there's so many people suffering from it. It's terrible. And anyone who claims that global warming is not happening, please go look up the temperature curves and see how this actually affects everything. Yeah, 35, 38. Oh yeah, right. I think about 100 degrees is roughly the temperature your body has. 100 Fahrenheit, 100 degrees Fahrenheit. So yeah, that's 37 degrees in centigrade. But hey, I am down to the last of the 5 robot warriors. It makes me happy because that is the goal for today. Getting these done. Actually, the goal was getting all 9 of them done, but I mean, once I realized that I needed to paint a bright off-white over black, I kind of figured, yeah, that's gonna take some time. Just starting with these 5s, getting them done. And I also like, I mean, these sculpts, I mean, they're robots, they're super spiffy and shiny and they have sharp edges, everything, but their cloaks are they're just tattered, which is absolutely wonderful. I mean, they've seen some action, these dudes. They've been places. And that also means that the paint job, I mean, I'm just splashing on the contrast paints, and then it mostly covers it in a good way, in a decent way. But sometimes it also, you know, leaves splotches or leaves part of the cloak darker or lighter than if you just did it by hand. But I think that actually works well with the tattered sort of look the cloak already has. It just emphasizes that. And the word tattered also makes me go off on a tangent because it reminds me of a character from the Malazan books by Steven Erikson, a sorcerer called Tattersail. This is the Bridge Burners books, and the people around them. They've got such cool names. To be honest, I'm trying to come up with names along the same lines without fully copycatting it, but it's so difficult because he's taken all the good ones. Tattersail and Whiskey Jack, Fiddler. I mean, you can go for any, you do Whistler instead of Fiddler, but that's kind of like, no, but he's already taken the music instrument name and stuff like that, so. And it says a few degrees in C more, matter more than a few degrees in F. Yeah, absolutely. It's yeah, more heat per degree in centigrades. But actually, Emily, if you remember the one shot I did with you and the other IPs, Sergeant Spinner, I modeled him on the Malazan books and kind of gave him a personality that I hope would fit in with those kind of guys, which is also why he kept on talking about some of the people from there. That was fully stolen from the Malazan books. but it just always works so well when you're trying to introduce a character in a new group. Just have a backstory instead of just having a kind of a blank slate for your background. Just going, oh, but hey, I know these 400 people, and then just be basing that off of a book that I've read the books, first couple of books a few times, and I use them the audiobooks. I use them to fall asleep to. So I've listened to them countless times by now, or at least patches here and there. So I kind of feel like I know all the bridge burners. I can just talk about that time that Corporal Picker suddenly realized he was actually talking to a new captain, just flying out of the bed going, oh yes sir, kind of thing. Or when the same captain actually goes in and talks to not his own enlisted men, but yeah, actually his enlisted men and the bridge burners, and they're just gambling in a tavern, and they invite him to sit in on the table, and his new captain is known as the captain who hasn't drawn his sword yet, which is not really what you want to be in a veteran squad. So he just laughs a little, just a quiet laugh, and says, no thanks, bad form for an officer to take his enlisted men. And that endears him to them, because he's basically saying, yeah, I could play with you, but that would be bad because I would win. And that kind of, those kind of small stories, having that in my head, makes it so much easier to build a character like Sergeant Spinner, because he can just say whatever I remember and just build on that, and saying if they've been through those kind of things, they've probably also done other shit. So I have a large gallery of characters to draw from. At least it's helpful to me. So that is 5 Robot Legion warriors done. Spread them out a little bit. I mean, it helps so much. Yeah, exactly. You know your character. I think that went pretty well with these ones. I mean, it's only a single color, but just having something to break up that sort of infinite metal they have on them, that's just thinking like them. That's what I really have enjoyed about writing fiction. It's when you enter the flow state where I'm just writing. I don't really see my computer. I don't see what I'm writing. It doesn't even feel like I'm writing it. I just see the story play out in my head. And because I try to get into my characters' heads so much, they kind of sort of just, I know what seems right for them to do in this situation, and then they just do it. It's not like I'm planning all of it and giving it a lot of conscious thought. It just kind of, yeah, I think the best way to describe it is it just feels like I'm them, and then I just go with it. Try to do the same when I'm role playing. It's a little difficult when I'm a game master, because then I have to be about, I don't know, everyone else at the same time. So yeah, but cool. I like to do the bases now. I'm thinking for the bases, instead of leaving the bases mostly black. I mean, the original plan was to make something that would fit in with this dude here. Yeah, I'm playing with dolls on stream now. Kind of making something that looked like that, but since they have different base sizes, I'm not going to be switching in the old Necrons in this one, also because of the capes. I think it's a completely different look, so I really wouldn't like to do that. So I'm not going to be limited to the choices I made for the bases here, which is basically just dark gravel. So I can actually do more fun stuff, and that reminds me that I got... Oh, I know what I'm going to do. Absolutely, I know what I'm going to do. I got some of these tufts, which are kind of reddish with some yellow orangey bits in them. So some of that on top of, do we have the Martian crusts? No, we have Martian iron earth. I'm just gonna do a quick test example here on a mini. You can't use the test org for that. I need something more. Well, anyway, it's one of the technical paints from Games Workshop Citadel that dries up and crackles once it's done. So we need to have the bases need a little bit of non-black color. And since we're gonna be Martian, gonna need something that's orangey. Just gonna go plain orange on that. Do that on top of black. Okay, Emily, you know about colors. Can I do orange straight on top of black, or is that gonna fail miserably? Probably gonna fail miserably, but let's try. Go. Well, we'll find out now. I mean, at least I primed the bases, so I'm not painting sprayed on metal. It kind of goes. I mean, kind of goes a little brownish, but that's fine actually. It's gonna that's gonna be good enough. Again, this is gonna be covered with the crackling paint, so it's just to have something that has a little bit more color and less black to it. Magic 8 Ball says result uncertain. My Magic 8 Ball over here. I should come up with names for all my robots, but not like, you know, BB-8 or R2-D2, not those kind of sort of call signs. Actual sort of mechanic sounding names. I'm gonna be thinking a little bit about that. I mean, it doesn't cover well, but it does give us enough that we can work with it. And I'm also sort of halfway seeing through the magnifying glass and halfway seeing around it. That is not good for my depth perception. And I will actually, since I'm doing sort of an orange-red base, I'll actually be leaving the rim of the base black. I try to avoid that. I know some people really want to go black on the rim of the bases, and it depends on how you're basing it and what the miniatures paint job and so on is. But I've really come to enjoy switching it up a little bit, and for instance, if I'm doing a very dark miniature, then doing a bright base and then keeping the rim of the base like a light brown or something like that. I found that it's really helpful for making the miniature stand out so much more than if the base or even just the rim is black. I guess it's about contrast and, you know, using the base as kind of the not the canvas, but the what's it called, the backdrop for the mini. So you actually have a dark mini that when you're seen from up on high up top, you kind of just go, oh, you can see it better because it has a light background in the base. But then on the other hand, it's also really cool to have bases that fit whatever surface they're playing on. But I mean, that's almost impossible to do, because then I'd have to have different bases or different squads for if you're playing on grasslands, or if you're playing on in ruins and rubble, or if you're in you know, rock and stone or whatever. So I actually saw one of the miniatures painters I saw on YouTube who would use the small transparent bases and not do any basing at all, just leaving it transparent, because that way you had the mini and just a small transparent disc, and then you could see whatever terrain was underneath it. And I think that was a really, really novel approach to wargaming minis. By then I had glued all of these models on bases, but I mean there is some. I think there's some sound reasoning behind that argument. Instead of making, you know, your super fancy hero general standing there on a rock formation with small twigs and a squirrel thrown in for good measure and all that, and then you're playing him on a tundra setup. And that's where I think the transparent bases may actually be really cool. I mean, it's not gonna make the model look as cool when it's a display piece, but on the game board, so much better. The same for dungeon crawls. Instead of just having a grass base, I mean, I had Abuela up there before. Well, let's take someone like, if I can get him out without breaking, let's take someone like this dude here. I mean, it looks cool with, you know, the rock setting and all that, but now he's playing in an indoor setting. He's down in a dungeon crawl. So why is he standing on a grass base with rocks sticking out of it? So yeah, I don't know. I actually found out that I'm really torn on that, because I like it to look good both when they're playing and when they're display pieces. I mean, for some minis, like the ones you get in One Piece where the base is attached, the transparent ones can be really annoying, because then you first have to cut away the original base. And that I've seen people do that with great success for, I think, so someone who painted Mansion of Madness, and then cut off all the bases, the original bases, and replacing them with transparent ones. So it's not a new idea by any means. People have been doing it for a long time, but it's not an idea I've seen used much in the sort of the wargaming community. They are all about, you know, making super fancy looking bases. Yeah, then you need the diorama when you're displaying. That's true. You just need to pop them into the large diorama you've got that covers the entire display cabinet. That's actually a cool idea. So many things to do. And we're coming up on the 2-hour mark, just as I'm about to finish the orange on the last of the normal warriors. Which is cool, because then I can just, once this is dry tonight, I think I'll actually just slap on the rest for the bases, and it's just gonna dry out overnight. Add a little bit of maybe some rocks, gravel, or whatever. The tufts, and then they're gonna be cool. I can always do the weapon effects later on if I feel like it, just filling in some of the lines in the guns with some kind of color to make them stand out a little bit more. But essentially, I mean, these would be ready for battle. Now I just need to finish up the other 4 warriors with special weapons, and then we have, you know, general, robot overlord, overseer, whatever they call it there. And once that is done, I have to the other small stuff, and I have a full squad for 1-page rules and the Grimdark Future Firefight. It's a bit of a mouthful there, Grimdark Future Firefight, but that is the name of the game. That's their skirmish game. Okay, Xiao Time looking good. Yeah. Dave, thank you for dropping by. I really appreciate it. I'm done as well for tonight. Let's get the minis up so we can actually see a little bit about how they look. There we go. So yeah, so it doesn't, the orange doesn't cover it fully. I may give them a second layer just quickly. But for now, this is it. Thank you for dropping by. It's been a pleasure as always. Shout outs to the Incorrigible Party for doing an awesome podcast. Shout out to Adrian von Ziegler again for making awesome music that you can use in your stream, royalty free. And shout outs to everyone who's just awesome, cool people who's been lurking. Take care, stay safe.